We got a lot of different stories I want to hit today. And here's one in Sparks, Nevada. Sparks Middle School. 2 dead, 2 injured. What happened was a student showed up on campus but not inside the building early in the morning. And it was on the basketball court. They said they heard a pop, like a loud pop. This is Kyle Newcomb, 13-year-old student, telling the Reno Gazette-Journal. Everybody was screaming. The teacher came to investigate. I thought it was a firecracker, but the student was pointing a gun at the teacher. The teacher told him to put it down. The student fired a shot at the teacher. The teacher fell, and everybody ran away. And we ran across the field to get somewhere safe. And while we were running, we heard about 4 or 5 more shots, and we just got somewhere safe. A lady let us into her house. Now, the teacher who was killed is math teacher Michael Lansbury. He's a 45-year-old military veteran, former Marine, still in the Guard, just celebrated his wedding anniversary 3 days ago. The police department deputy chief Tom Robinson said, my estimation is that he is a hero. His sister-in-law said, to hear that he was trying to stop this is not surprising. She said his life could be summed up by his love of family, his students, and his country. And here's the comment I have to start with. Before all the gun control nuts do their knee-jerk reaction saying this is another reason for gun control, here is a trained military man, and the only thing he could do to stop this child was ask him to put the gun down. Because we have made the school a, quote, gun-free zone. You know, except for the people who are willing to kill you. Well, but, you know, hey, there can't be any school shootings. I mean, school shootings, there can't be any because we made it illegal to have a gun at school. So therefore, obviously, there's no more guns at school. Except for the people who are willing to kill you. So this is the ridiculousness of liberalism, which is why Dr. Savage calls it a mental disorder. The idea that if you just make something illegal, it won't happen anymore, and therefore you can ignore any of the consequences from these acts is a form of mental disorder. Oh, we passed a law. Oh, we made it illegal. There's no guns on school grounds anymore. You know, what are you saying? There's someone who is willing to murder people, and somehow you think that he's not willing to break your law on bringing a gun to school. Does that make any sense? You know, this is why quite often police officers are able to catch serial killers when they're breaking a traffic law. Why? Well, because if you're willing to murder 20 people, you're probably willing to run a stop sign. If you're willing to cut people up into little pieces, you're probably willing to speed. So when you pull them over for those other things, you find out, oh, this is Ted Bundy. But no, we passed a law. So instead of allowing people like math teacher Michael Lansbury, who's a military veteran, who has nothing but the kid's good interest at his heart, instead of allowing him to carry a concealed weapon after being specifically trained for it and specifically background tested for it so that he can protect these children, he had to walk out with his bare hands and nothing to say, son, put the gun down. And he was shot dead. We don't know much more about this. We don't know the motive yet. We do know that the killer then turned the gun on himself, self-inflicted gunshot wound, and he is dead. He's one of the 2 dead. 2 others were injured. We don't know the motive. But we do know that military man was not allowed to defend himself because of our policies now, because we have people who are going to tell you it's a gun-free zone. I mean, why in the world would we want guns on campus? Well, if it's a gun in the hands of the police officer or guns in the hand of a former military man or guns in the hand of a teacher who has been specifically trained to protect our children, there's a school in Texas, in the Shamrock Independent School District, that has a big sign in the front lawn of that school that says, warning, our teachers are armed to protect our students. Now, I would be willing to wager with you that that school will not have somebody come in and start trying to shoot up the school. Now, most of these people who do this, we find out later, are mentally ill, right? We find out later they're mentally ill. Some would say by definition to come in and start a mass shooting, you must be mentally ill. But we do find out they're mentally ill. But what we find out is, although they're mentally ill, they're still not stupid. Sometimes people think that if you're mentally ill, you can't reason at all anymore, that you can't plan at all anymore. It's just not true. My background is in mental health counseling. I have a master's in that and did it before I got into radio. And I knew a lot of schizophrenics that would seem and were totally crazy one minute, but the next minute could be helping you with a calculus problem. Now, they're not stupid to know, hey, I'm not going to go there where they're armed and they're going to kill me. I'm going to go over here where it's a gun-free zone so I can take my own life at the end when the cops finally show up. Isn't that how it normally works? So now we have another one. And we're going to be told again that the problem is the guns. If the problem is the guns, how is it that as we've had more guns in this country, we've had gun crime go down over the last 20 years? Does that make any sense to you? I'm so tired of the knee-jerk reaction of saying what we've got to do is have more gun control laws, which are going to do nothing to stop this. Nothing. And we also have to stay, and I know this sounds weird saying it today, but if you look at the statistics, your child is still safer in school than anywhere else, including your home. Did you know that? I mean, really look at the statistics. Now, if you look at the statistics, even with these mass shootings, gun crime and gun homicide is down significantly in the United States of America over the past 20 years, when gun ownership has gone to new heights. But the people who are all about trying to take the guns away don't want to listen to what the actual stats are. Why? Doesn't serve their purposes. 855-400-SAVAGE. Get you in. 855-400-SAVAGE. Take your calls on that. Also want to tell you about this black on white hate crime off the michaelsavage.com website. We'll hit that in just a minute. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now. 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Dr. Savage on the Savage Nation. 855-400-SAVAGE or michaelsavage.com. We were talking about the horrific shooting, Sparks Middle School in Sparks, Nevada, and math teacher Michael Lansbury killed, 45-year-old military veteran, shot and killed. Then the shooter did a self-inflicted gunshot wound, killed himself. We don't know any more details, really, than 2 dead, 2 injured, and that the teacher tried to stop it. The teacher stepped forward and said, put the gun down, and was killed for trying to do this, and was not, of course, allowed to protect himself. So your point is that you have to be able to protect yourself, and that the Second Amendment is about protecting yourself from your government, and yes, protecting your life from those that wish to do you harm. If you go back and read what the founders wrote about that, that's what it was for. The Second Amendment was not for hunting. Nobody ever questioned that you were going to be able to hunt or whatever. It wasn't for target practice. It was to defend yourself for your life and from your own government. And when you say that, they call you some kind of crazy radical. But that's what it's for. And to take that away from people doesn't make any sense to me. And we're doing it because, well, we want to make the workplace safer. And, okay, let's think about that for a second. If you really want to go kill people at your workplace, is a law that your boss puts in or a rule that your boss puts in saying it's a gun-free work zone going to stop that person? That's just stupid. You know, my wife's a teacher. She teaches first grade. And I would love for her to be able to be fully trained and carry a concealed weapon to protect herself just in case. But, of course, they won't let her. I want to at least get her a fire extinguisher in her classroom and say, it's for fire, but it would really be for personal protection if somebody came in to try to harm her and her students. But right now, what does she really have to protect herself? She weighs 110 pounds. What is she going to do? It doesn't make any sense. First, 2 dead, 2 injured, shooting at Nevada Middle School, Sparks Middle School, Sparks, Nevada, just outside of Reno, and math teacher Michael Lansbury, 45-year-old military veteran, tried to stop it. It was outside the school, on school campus, early in the morning. He said, put the gun down, according to the students who were there. Aimed the gun at this teacher, killed him. Shot 2 others. Then turned the gun on himself. That's all we know. We still don't have the details out of this story yet. And the one detail I'm getting to before everybody tells us that we need more gun control is, here's a military veteran still in the Guard, and he couldn't defend himself and defend those students with anything but his bare hands. Why? Because we say we want to make schools a gun-free zone, which of course they're not, because people who are willing to murder you are willing to violate a law. And somehow that's what the liberals never understand, and that's why, as Dr. Savage says, it's a mental disorder. Liberalism. Let me get Alan in from Reno. Alan, I know you're just outside of Sparks, Nevada. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Sparks is just east of Reno. It's about half the size. Hard to tell where one town begins and the other ends. But I got a couple points to make. One is that my wife and I got back from Denver, Colorado last year to find out that the Aurora Theater incident had happened. And we had our guns with us. And we thought, had we been allowed to go or decided to stay another night and go to see that Batman movie, we probably would have carried our guns with us, even though we have our Nevada concealed weapons permits, and Nevada teaches an 8-hour course, which includes live fire shooting, but Colorado chooses not to recognize Nevada. So for us, that theater would have been a gun-free zone.
Well, Alan, not just for you. Hang on a second. Not just for you. In fact, even though that town allows concealed carry, that particular movie theater was a, quote, gun-free zone. And many people believe that that's why the killer targeted that particular theater, because there are other theaters in the area that do allow you, if you're a concealed carry holder, to carry. So there's another incident where, as crazy as that man seems to be, he chose the right theater.
Gun-free zones are very dangerous, including Costco. Even though I choose to carry in Costco, they never know because it's concealed.
Yeah, and that's a decision that a lot of people have to make. Are you willing to violate their law or rule that you can't carry in their facility, and then if you get caught, maybe even lose your CCW? Or is it more important to carry and hey, they're never going to know anyway, and I'm going to defend myself? Good point. And Alan, isn't your wife a teacher as well? Is that what I see up here?
My wife, she is a public school teacher and has been for close to 20 years, and she is a CCW instructor and has been for close to 20 years. And after the incident in Connecticut, we had decided to offer free training for anyone who could get written permission from the principal of their school to be able to carry while they're in the school. And we haven't got anyone from the county that we live in, which is Washoe County, here in Reno and Sparks, but we've had someone from California who was had written permission, and someone from, I think it was Churchill County, which is also in Nevada.
So your wife is not allowed to carry at her school?
What's that?
Your wife is not allowed to carry at her school?
If she were to gain permission from the person in control of her school, she would be able to, but...
right, but she's not right now, is what you're saying. I got you. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Yeah, but we're going to hear again, it's time to ban guns. But, see, that's not going to do it. It just isn't. I mean, you look at the reality of the situation, and you look at the fact that in this country, first of all, they keep saying, well, no, we're only talking about AR-15s, but then it turns out, well, it wasn't an AR-15. It doesn't look like it was in this one. Doesn't look like it was in the U.S. Navy Yard. We, in fact, know it wasn't. And even if it is, well, then they'll just move to a handgun or a shotgun. And there are actually more people killed, way more people killed with handguns than there are rifles in this country. It's like 1%. And less than that when you talk about so-called assault rifles, which are really just semi-automatic rifles that look more like military weapons, but they're not. So what they really, if you follow their logic to stop the so-called senseless shootings, then with military weapons, which they aren't, what they really would have to do, if you follow the logic, is get away all the guns and take away your Second Amendment right, really, truly, if you want to stop the killing. But even that wouldn't work because there's so many that only the criminals would keep them. And that's what always happens when you try to restrict gun ownership. The law-abiding people agree to that, the criminals don't, and then you're really outgunned. But other than that, it's just a perfect plan. Let me get Stuart in from Ocala, Florida on this. Stuart, you're on the Savage Nation. My name is Greg Knapp in for Dr. Savage. Go right ahead.
Hey, Greg, how are you this evening?
Doing well.
Okay, well, back when Katrina happened, we had a situation where we had a helicopter and we volunteered to go up to New Orleans and volunteer to help with the rescue efforts. And we flew the helicopter. We were not, even though we're all concealed carry weapons permit holders, we were not allowed to carry our weapons on the helicopter due to FAA regulation. We started to drop off supplies to people that were sitting on their roofs and so on and so forth, and we got shot at.
That just shocks me. Why? I mean, I know you didn't get to ask the guy because he's shooting at you, but I cannot even imagine. You're there to help people. You're dropping off, things to help people, and they're shooting at you?
We apparently were not dropping off supplies on the right roofs. And so the people that had guns were shooting at us in order to try and get us to, drop supplies up on their roofs. And the bottom line is, we're there trying to help people. We're going to come back to other roofs. But, we're not going to get to yours right now. And my issue is...
Yeah, go ahead.
People shouldn't be able to carry guns that aren't allowed to carry guns.
Yes, and there you go, Stuart. And here's the thing, and that's what's tough, is the problem is we keep talking about more restrictions on legal gun owners when what you really need is the restrictions on the people who shouldn't have the gun in the first place. And so what you're going to do is restrict the people who have done nothing wrong, and the people who are carrying them illegally are going to keep doing it anyway. That's always the problem with this stuff. They're going to find their guns, if they want to, illegally. So we're going to hurt the people who should have them to go after the people that shouldn't have them, and the people that shouldn't have them are still going to have them. Oh, a great plan. Just a great plan. 855-400-SAVAGE gets you in. 855-400-SAVAGE and michaelsavage.com online. And, here's the thing that when the National Rifle Association put out, maybe we should have armed guards at these schools. Well, what do we want, to live in a prison? But did you know 30% of the schools in America already have armed policemen in them? 30%. And you know what else? The school that President Obama sends his two daughters to, they have a security team. Several of them are armed. Whether or not President Obama's daughters were going to go there, they already had that security team at that private school. I'm not even counting the Secret Service people. And obviously we want the president's children to be protected, and they should have armed Secret Service people around them. But why is it that those children at that very expensive private school in D.C. have a private security team, some of them armed, and yet if you talk about doing that at the public school, somehow you're a crazy person? Does that make any sense to you? Let me get Matt in from KSFO. Matt, you're on the Savage Nation. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Dr. Savage. Go right ahead.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. I live in California, where it's obviously impossible to conceal weapons permit. And every night, all you hear about is, a shooting in Oakland, 3 people killed in Oakland. I mean, it's almost not even news anymore. I went to college in Utah, got a concealed weapons permit, and how it works in Utah is amazing. It's just there's really no crime. There's no mass shooting. So when we're putting all these rules and regulations on people from buying handguns, we're making it harder for people who can have the ability to get trained and get a concealed weapons permit to protect themselves. And the people who are going to go out and do illegal things and go out and kill people, they're not going to go and buy a gun legally just like you and I are. They're going to go out and get it illegally or some other way. So making all these rules and taking all these guns off the street, you know, the criminals are still going to have it. They're not going to turn them in. They're going to keep them. So it doesn't make any sense putting all these laws and rules and regulations into place.
Exactly. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, we've seen it time and time again, and we've even seen it with some of these mass shootings. Stolen from a relative, taken from a friend, or bought legally because we haven't done enough to really track somebody who is severely mentally ill, and taking away your AR-15 from a legal person is not going to change any of that. Appreciate all the great calls.